It's day 3. Welcome to the Mandatory Quarantine Show. So we're now into day 3 of sitting around in the backyard. It is a bit of a cloudy, supposed to get rain, but this morning it actually seems to be clearing up a little bit. This morning my mother's dropping off some supplies, so all good there. Everything going fine, no symptoms, no problems. Though it's around, day 5, day 7 that we have to watch for if we got it on the plane. Uh, so that probably means, tomorrow or the day after is where if we've got anything, symptoms will start to occur. Um, did the phone in through the phone tree yesterday, no problem. And yesterday, mostly, I was just kind of getting everything straight and tidied, unpacked, moved around, that sort of thing. We had a nice dinner, watched Hercule Poirot on the television there, a couple of episodes of him. And then this morning, my wife's uh, phone went off at around, I think, 5:30ish, so I haven't been able to get back to bed. But supplies holding out, uh, ship still upright, no major issues to report. And I thought maybe today it would be a good idea to talk about, some of the precautions and what's going on, that at least I've been doing. So what I've been doing is maybe not necessarily, medically the current whatever, but what I've been doing. So I have been since the start of this taking vitamin D tablets, which I used to take beforehand because of the cloudiness, especially in Russia and in Canada. Over the winters, I get a bit of what's known as seasonal affectiveness disorder, which is basically like a kind of a depressive state because of the weather, because you're not getting it's basically a vitamin D deficiency syndrome. So I was taking about 1,000 international units, and then early on into the outbreak, they started seeing studies coming out of Israel and Sweden that were talking about having to do with vitamin D levels in COVID patients. And especially with the Sweden, they have about 30 different products inside of there that have enriched vitamin D levels because, of course, Sweden being so northerly, they basically spike the foods. And a lot of the Scandinavian countries do that. Denmark does it. I think Norway does it. I think Finland does it. And they put basically vitamin D into different products. There's about 30 different products that they spike. In Canada, we do this with the milk, for example. The milk has about 500 international units per serving. Um, the States does it to a lesser extent. It puts about 50 in. Russia does zero. So that was one of the things that kind of shocked me once I got over there, and why I started to take the tablets was because normally in the morning I have, cereal or I have a coffee and it's got milk in it. And of course, when you're taking that, you're getting an immediate spike in Canada of, vitamin D inside of the milk, which wasn't there. And so I was trying to figure out, like, why do I feel so different? Because normally I don't get this sort of depression in the winter. I'd never had that before. And that was because I was in Canada drinking, milk and just eating things that happen to be vitamin D enriched. There's been a recent study in about the past month or two coming out of Spain in which they did 76 patients, and they treated, this was people that were already poorly, that already had the disease. And they were coming into hospital and they did a clinical trial. So this is basically double blind, peer reviewed, all the check marks that you like to see as a scientist on the study. And they separated it in about a 2-to-1 ratio of being given the vitamin D treatment or not. And this isn't just we give you vitamin D and that's your entire treatment. This is to the standard of care, which in Spain was basically hydroxychloroquine, dexamethasone, and about 2 or 3 other treatments were inside of that. The study's got the full things, and I can probably link it in the description later. or if people are interested, please email me and I can forward you that. But what was happening was they were giving them a very high levels of the activated version of vitamin D. Uh, so calcifediol is the activated version, and vitamin D3 I think is like chloricalcifediol, something kind of calcifediol. But it basically your liver and your kidneys, if you have normal liver and kidney function, allows that to be turned into calcifediol, and the calcifediol is what's actually used inside of your body, inside of like the killer T cells and a few other pieces inside of your immune system utilize that, and it binds and blocks out some of the ACE2 receptors that cause the ARS issues. And so, and that study's been out in the last few months. And what they did is they took 26 people were not given the vitamin D and were in one group, and then the other group was 50 patients that were given the vitamin D uh, increase, and it basically amounted to about 20-ish tablets worth of the 1,000 tablets in the first day, and then another amount that amounts to about like 3,000 IUs for every day thereafter. Uh, After the third day, they started them on that. So it basically would amount to like basically they're trying to turbocharge it by putting a whole bunch of calcifediol into you right away, and then it works through the system and kind of pumping people that are supposed to be at low levels back up to high. And they found that in the group that they did the treatment on, only one person, so about 2%. I mean, there's 50 people, so one person, 2%. Were then inducted from after going to the hospital into the ICU. Whereas in the treatment group, it was about half of the 26. So 13 went into ICU after that, and one unfortunately passed away thereafter from complications. So that is definitely statistically significant at a high level, even for such a very small clinical trial. So I've been just kind of putting on the vitamin D now as a prophylactic since kind of the start of this, and I've been upping my dose. There was some news that I think Fauci was doing like 6,000 units. I'm doing about 2,000 a day, and then if I'm in and going into a higher risk scenario, I up the dose. So I was on a higher amount when I was on the plane. So I want to see more studies in this area, because vitamin D, I mean, for in medical terms, it's like cheap as free. Like they should just be kind of dropping a box at everybody's house of tablets and getting everybody to kind of start on it, because it seems to really have that sort of effect. The other thing that I've been doing is trying to bring down my weight, and so I've been walking every day, getting my steps in. We were just out this morning doing the steps. There's the sun. Been walking, trying to get down my weight and trying to pull down any other risk factors. So I don't smoke. I occasionally have a drink here and there. Uh, so in a lot of those terms, I'm very ahead, but my blood pressure is too high, my weight is too high, and so those are the things that I can change inside of my lifestyle, to go about trying to put myself in a position where if it does happen, and you know that there is some sort of protections against it. So yeah, I would definitely see about maybe upping the levels of vitamin D if you're not already doing that so already, especially if you have darker skin, especially if you're in a region like myself where you don't go out and get the sun. And the funny thing is, this was Spain, and they were saying, well, there's a cultural bias about not going outside and getting the sun. Um, and I don't know. I think that's maybe part of this. There's even evidence inside of the flu pandemic that they would, have people go outside, well ventilated areas with sun, and to get over the flu pandemic in 1918. So I think we need to kind of go back and look at historically why some of that happened. So if you can get some tablets of the vitamin D and just, the amounts that would be required to go toxic are extremely high. Like, you're not going to hurt yourself by taking one 1,000 IU tablet a day. That isn't going to do too much, or if it's in some other stuff, eat the fatty fish, eat the things that have that vitamin in it. Get out, get some sun. Go outside, take a little walk. Do you good. So, keep ventilated. Still wear your mask, wash your hands, and I'll check in tomorrow with everyone and see how we're doing day 4.